when you manage to find a mode of expression for a group of people or a company or whatever that they feel suits them, that they feel enhances who they would like to be for other people, that's very satisfying. You feel you've done a reasonable job if you've been able to do that. When you can actually work for a company and know that they feel better because of what you've given them.
Welcome to the podcast. It's an honor to be interviewing somebody whose work that you've been following for your whole career. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Well, that's very generous.
So I guess my first question is probably the easiest and the hardest, and it was the reason we started the podcast. But I'd love to understand from you, what is your definition of a brand?
I suppose a collection of prompts on behalf of an idea to convey and quality of the idea as effectively as possible, I suppose. Yes.
I like that. I like that you talk about it being an idea. What do you think constitutes a good idea?
A good idea, I suppose, something of value to people.
Okay. When you're working with companies, when you're working with brands, with products, is that what you try and get into? Is what is the value of this idea? What is the value that people can extract from this?
Well, I mean, always the first question is what's the point? What are you up to? What do you want to achieve? What is the result that you are seeking? I mean, to sell something or to convince somebody of something or to share something. What are you up to is always the first question. Why are you doing this? What's the point? And that's usually quite revealing, because sometimes people are just doing it because they're doing it, and they've lost a little bit of the track of why they're doing it. It's just a job or whatever it may be, but it's useful to know what people's ambitions really are. Yeah, if you're going to help them to achieve them.
And do you find that people are clear on that, or is it more often than not?
No, not often. I mean, some people are just traveling. They've just been doing something for a while, and they're going on doing it, and they want to be successful at doing it, whatever the criteria of success happen to be. Maybe making money, maybe just having a good time, or whatever the satisfaction is. And you just really, my job usually just to help people to express themselves in a way that is effective for them. Yeah.
I like that. What would you consider to be a good reason to be going after when you're thinking about building a brand?
Do I understand your question? What do I think is a good reason to help somebody?
Yeah, well, you're asking me what is the result. So what do you think is a good result that people could go after?
Usually
that's a good reason to build a company.
I'm usually working in the world of business. It's usually to speed the business on its way, or to help the business to be perhaps more successful or more effective than it is. Usually you're helping people to achieve success, or to sell more things, or to win more approval, or to have a better time even sometimes,
And I mean, I guess, this is interesting because, a lot of, I guess in the Instagram age, the visual of it is the most important thing because it needs to look good when you put it on the internet. So if you're talking about expressing yourself and speeding the business along, how do you see creative ideas and design and branding helping in that space?
Yeah, I think it starts with what's the point? What is it you want to achieve? Why are you doing what you're doing? Is it because you want to sell more things, or because you want to introduce a new idea, or what are you up to? And if you think about it, what would you imagine would be an improvement on what you're doing now?
I mean, I love the idea of imagination and transformation. Can you share some of your thinking around what good imagination looks like, what transformation looks like? Because your work has got such a...
That's a really interesting question. Yes, I'll give you an example. Working for a venture capital company, which I did quite a long time ago, is to excite them more in the success of other people, not just the financial success of other people, but the success in the world of other people. How helping people financially is more than helping them financially. It's actually helping them to thrive, helping them to succeed, helping them to achieve their ambitions, sometimes even helping them to re-evaluate their ambitions, perhaps extend their ambitions, perhaps to enlarge their ambitions. It's always, what is it you really want to achieve? If you could have what you wanted, which is what I often find myself saying to my clients, if you could have what you really wanted, what would it be? And, it starts off with financial success, but then it goes into other aspects of success: fame, value, bringing value to the world, being useful, all sorts of things like that. And then when you get a better grasp of what people are really up to, then you can see more clearly if you can be of use to them or not.
The second time you said that, being of use to them, is that where you see your role in conjunction with your clients, that you need
Yeah,
to of use to them?
I think if you want to if you want their money, you better be useful. Yeah, it's
And
pretty
I
crude,
mean,
but it's really as simple as that. You want to bring them value. You want to give them a sense of enhanced value. Yeah,
I love the simplicity of the things that you are saying. I mean, you've been working for a long time. I think you
and,
founded your company in the
sometimes I
mid
think you can
'60s.
even expand people's idea of what their success might actually be. It's not just an annual increase in turnover or profit, but it's bringing more recognizable value to people.
Can you point to any examples of that you think really kind of embody that expansion of the idea of success?
Most of my clients, I think of themselves as needing to make money because they're in business, and business seems to be
Yes.
quite an extent about making money. But it's also about other things. It's about progress, making progress. It's about improving the quality of people's lives. It's all sorts of aspects of value. Happiness is important. Bringing some joy into the world, or bringing something more useful or helpful, or reducing damage, or whatever it may be. It's a whole variety of positive things. Yes. Yeah.
I like. I like that you're framing it around positive things. I mean, my company is called Nice Work, so I'm in the same
Yeah.
camp as you. If you think about differentiation and standing out, do you think using these positive emotions is a way of doing that?
Well, some businesses are gangsters, and some are genuinely there for the betterment of the human species. It's a whole variety of motivations that different businesses have. And on the whole, I tend to gravitate to working for people whose aspirations I have empathy with, really. I wouldn't
I think that
want to help a company to do damage, really. No, anybody. I mean, I don't think any designer would want to help people to do damage, although I suppose some do.
I think you nailed it when you said that people often start with the financial motivations. I think some people
Yeah,
are motivated by
yeah.
the money, and some people are motivated by the impact of the work.
Yeah, well, some people it's just about money, but I think they're relatively few. I think more people want success, or want recognition, or want usefulness, or want to be able to say to their kids they're doing something that their children are going to be proud of.
You mentioned something in your last statement around having
Having
empathy for what they are doing. Can
Yes.
you talk more about how you use empathy in your work, how you apply it, how you express using that?
Well, I suppose it's in one's nature. You either feel you want to bring something that brings pleasure or satisfaction to the people for whom you work. And it's usually most people I've worked for, most companies, most people who run companies want more than money from what they do. They want all sorts of aspects of satisfaction. They want recognition. They want to be useful. They want to bring something to the world. Most people want more than a bit of money, really. Yeah.
And do you think that a designer's sort of superpower is that empathy of connecting, the visuals and the narrative and the idea to these objectives, or these drivers, or these results that people are chasing after?
Well, you can feel, well, I certainly, in my experience, when you manage to find a mode of expression for a group of people or a company, whatever, that they feel suits them, that they feel is enhances who they would like to be for other people, that's very satisfying. You feel you've done a reasonable job if you've been able to do that. When you can actually work for a company and know that they feel better because of what you've given them.
How do you think? I mean, you started, if I'm not mistaken, you started Wolff Ollins in the early '60s. How do you think branding has evolved or stayed the same? From the '60s to now in
Well,
the
there's a question.
2020s.
I mean, of course, it's actually much more self-conscious. It's much more aware of the effect of detail and the effect of language and the effect of design and the effect of behavior. It's much more self-conscious, if you like. It deals with much more sophisticated self-consciousness than it used to. It used to be just a symbol or something, but now it goes into much more profound depths. How do you welcome people on their first day at work? How do you interview people? How do you reward people? What is the point of your company? What is the purpose of your company? Do you make that clear to people? Is it more than just making money? What is it? What is it about you? I suppose it's a little bit, when you meet somebody new, what are they about? Why do you like them? It's not just because of what they look like. It's about how they think. It's about why they're there. It's about the kind of empathy you feel with their reason to be, if you like. And it's the same with your clients. You're concerned with what it is they're after. And nobody's just after money. People are after fame. People are after recognition of all sorts of various things. Yeah.
So you're sort of thinking is that the craft is getting deeper and touching much deeper into the organizations and helping them on a more fundamental level, which then rolls up to the actual visual of it and the icon and the mark and all of those pieces.
I mean, we're all quite complicated, aren't we? So, we want all sorts of things to enhance our own lives.
Yes.
And we want to be useful, some of us. We want to have a good time, some of us. We're all spending our lives, whatever it is we're doing, wanting to feel that we are of value, I suppose. Yeah.
I enjoy that. Can we talk about leap before you look? I'd love to understand why the flipping around of the traditional statement, and what was it like together? What was it like putting together the leap before you look book and putting all the work
what
into
inspires leap before you look?
Yes.
I think it's something to do with the nature of creativity. It's very hard to explain, even quite hard to talk about, but it's something that is in you that creates, that's always been there. It probably happened to you when you were 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 in very early life, where you feel something happens that wasn't there before you created it, whatever it may be, a feeling, a thought, the look of something, just moving something, picking something up that you like, all those impulsive things that we have. You're, as designers, I suppose you're looking to connect with those impulses that people have, which end up with, I like it, or I love it, or I want it. Yeah. It's quite interesting trying to find the words to talk about desire or attraction or these things that make us choose the things we like to have in our lives.
It is fascinating. I think desire and pain are the two most powerful human motivators. That if you desire something, you'll move mountains to get it. If you're in pain or uncomfortable or unhappy, you will do many things to sort of get out of it. And people make those emotional decisions in an instant.
Yeah, I mean, pleasure is quite a difficult thing to define, isn't it? But the things that give you a sense of it's very, how can I find the language to describe what I'm trying to say? It's just increments of pleasure, and some of them very, very finely tuned. It's like when you eat a meal or something. Some of the things that you eat give you enormous pleasure. Some you just munch. You don't even notice. But the things that give you pleasure, when we're talking about food, some things give you more pleasure than others. And it's the same with the things that you look at. Some things give you pleasure, some things you barely notice. But if you switch your noticing on, there's a lot of things that you think, oh, that's lovely. Oh, that's beautiful. I'm just looking out of the window now and the sky is the most amazing blue. And that's giving me pleasure. and I'm trying to look at the glass behind you and see what's behind that glass, and I can't see it, of course, but I can see some
There's a
plants
forest.
near you, and I can see
Yes.
the color of your sweater. And and you're looking for things all the time that give you some sort of sense of value, I suppose. Yeah, there's a little red
I
thing
like.
behind your shoulder. It's on the bookshelf. Oh, it's the size of a bookshelf. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and there's a spine of books, and there's the leaves and the plant over your right hand shoulder, and
Yes.
some initials on
This
the
all the books
yeah.
on this shelf here.
The
All the
spine's a
books.
lovely red spine, and you're always looking for little things that give you just little jolt of pleasure or connection of some sort. I'm looking at you, I'm looking at the leaves on the plant by the window, I'm looking at the spine of the book behind you, I'm looking at the microphone, trying to read the letter on the microphone, BODE, I think it says. I can't really tell properly. I can see JHR up by your left elbow.
JHB. Close. I don't think anyone's given me such a visual breakdown of my studio before. And you were
Yeah.
talking about joy. All the books on the shelf here, or the vast majority of them, are from people that I have interviewed. So it's sort of my
Oh, interesting.
little
Yeah.
library of memory, which I enjoy.
Yeah, and that's interesting. But then interviewing people must be fun too, because you get an impression of them, and they say a few things in an interview that probably you think, oh, that was interesting. That tells you something about that person, and yeah, it must be fascinating interviewing people. I mean, I've done a lot of interviewing people in my activities, getting to get the feeling of a company before you want to help them with their self-expression. But it's always quite difficult to disentangle your personal appreciation of people with what it is you're trying to do for the company they're representing.
And filtering it via the people that they're trying to talk to is also, especially
Yeah.
when you're not necessarily representative of that group, that your perception of it isn't necessarily the truth when it goes out into the world.
Yes. And then, you've got your own interpretations to wonder why they are the way they are. So there's that going on as well. People remind you of other people and all sorts of stuff that goes on and reactions towards each other. Yeah. But I feel incredibly lucky to be a designer and to be helping people with their self-expression, with the self-expression of their companies. What a privilege. What an extraordinary job to have. Yeah. I can't believe it's a real job.
You said something earlier that I really enjoyed, which is if you switch on your noticing. I mean, one of the things that I say a lot is the curiosity. You said if you switch on you can switch on your noticing.
Yes.
And one of the things that I always say to my team is that curiosity is a superpower, that just being interested in something and just being available to receive information is, I think, at least, a big chunk of what differentiates good designers, from people who just making, sort of visual stuff, that they've noticed something, seen something, extrapolated something that interests them, and they can tie that interest back to other people so that other people are interested in the same thing.
Yeah, but it's the thing of one's amazing power to notice, and you notice all sorts of. I mean, noticing most extraordinary activity, really, because you're matching what you see with what you've already got in your mind. You never see something without some sort of connection happening within you. No, it's I can't put this. Being a designer is the most extraordinary gift to have been given, that people are actually asking you what something should look like. What an extraordinary thing. And it's an extraordinary privilege, really, when you think about it. When a company comes to you about how should we look, how should we sound, how should we write, how should we behave, how should we, how can you help us to be more effective in what we do? What a job. We're very fortunate.
You've given me sort of some pause to reflect on my job now. So thank you for that. One of the motifs that I really enjoy in your work is often there's a hand rendered element. There's a drawing or an illustration or a piece of writing. Why? Can you just share with me? This is my own me like serving my own curiosity. Can you share why you enjoy putting those elements into your work?
There are some things you just can't explain. It's just. How can I put this? I've worked a lot with writers, and you know that when someone is writing for a client on your behalf and they've got it right and they've got it so that you feel you are giving your client an aspect of their self-expression which is going to enhance their own feeling of who they are, it's a tremendous feeling. You know, when you've helped, a lot of companies struggle with their self-expression. You know, they really don't know whether they're looking right or sounding right, or whether it could be better, or whether they should redo it or think about it again or whatever. And when you help to give voice to a company that they feel is them, it's a tremendous feeling. You know, I know that when people have worked for me, helping me or my company with its self-expression, when it isn't right, you know it isn't right. And when it's right, it's a wonderful feeling. As somebody's given you something that you couldn't have created for yourself, which is more you than you could have done for yourself. It's a great feeling.
Yes, there is
Yeah.
something really valuable in that outsider's perspective, looking at the things that you can't necessarily see because you're too close to them and going,
Yes,
oh,
exactly
that's
right.
lovely.
Yes. And it's just illuminating for you. You know, we're
Mm.
all very limited in what we can see for ourselves. And when people show us things that we couldn't see for ourselves, it's always wonderful, really. Yeah, it's part of the
And I
joy
like
of it.
that.
And when you can bring that to other people and say, well, show them something that they are that they perhaps hadn't quite seen for themselves that could be useful to them, and you feel you've been useful. And being
I like that.
useful,
I think
I think, is what it's all about, really.
I agree. I agree. I think part of what you're talking about here, there's also a level of trust that a client or a business needs to extend to you, the
Yes.
designer, to be able to sort of let go enough to let you see those things and express them on their behalf, which I
Yeah,
think is
exactly
often.
right. And when you're using your own imagination and your own curiosity, and you find a question that wasn't there before, like what happens when somebody joins your company and the first day they join, what do you do to welcome them? And the look on the face of the person that you've asked that question to may be an expression of, I don't really know what we do. They just come in and they meet people and they form relationships and everything, but we don't do anything particularly. Well, maybe we do. I don't know what we do. And you start their own curiosity to become more active. And they look at, well, what do we do when people join us? Do we celebrate them joining us? Do we give them something to celebrate them joining us? What do we do? And you start the whole process of letting people reflect on how they treat other people. And well, they look at their personnel department or whatever it's called. How do we welcome people into this company? What happens on the first day when they join? And you know, when we can stimulate people's curiosity about their own behavior, you are opening the door to all sorts of creativity and improvement and doing things better and all the rest of it, you know. And that's why we're
Mm,
in business, really, to make things work better for people and be more
um,
pleasurable or more effective or whatever it may be. Am I talking
just
gibberish? I
before.
sometimes wonder.
No, no, you're making perfect sense. Just before I came on this call, I was working on a client journey for one of our clients. I was looking at
Yeah.
what are all the moments that happen from when we meet them to when they sign up. Like what are
Yes.
all of those little pieces? And
Yes.
it's quite fun when you visualize it all, and then I can give it to my team of writers and designers and animators and going, now how do we bring this to life? How do we breathe joy and happiness and irreverence into this experience so that every communication that people are getting has that opportunity to be something that
Yes.
that
Yes.
says something, that means something, that touches something, and then they're not all going to hit that. But if we can get it from 0% to 20% or 30% of those, then I think
Yeah.
it'll
Yeah.
make that experience a much more delightful one.
Yeah. You know, I mean, I've never had anyone write to me that I've been working for and's written to me and said, thank you for what you did last week. It's never happened. You know, normal behavior is normal behavior. I suppose what we're thinking about is abnormal behavior, behavior that goes beyond normality and
Mm.
touches people in a way that really moves them. It's like when you used to open Christmas presents when you were 5 or 6. The joy and the idea of giving people joy seems to, I don't know, weaken or even disappear. I don't think many people in what's called personnel departments think about joy. They may think about satisfaction or reasonableness or, all sorts of things that come up. But joy, I don't know if that's on their agenda. I think it might be.
And do you think joy is a powerful tool when it comes to convincing people, to touching them, to connecting them? Do you think joy is a useful tool?
No, I mean, when somebody actually acknowledges you and reaches something quite intimate in you and acknowledges something that is uniquely you, it's a tremendous feeling. So somebody will say to you, I really like the way that you speak. I like the way that you can use language. And it's very useful in our company. People have an interview with you, they come out of it feeling refreshed, or they come out of it feeling encouraged, or they come out of it feeling inspired. Well, that's a terrific quality to have, just recognizing the potential that we all have to be useful, to be helpful, to be motivating, to make people feel of greater value than they were before you spoke to them. Am I making sense?
You are making sense, and that's my second sort of big note that I'm taking here, is that I need to potentially spend a little bit more time seeing how I can give the people who are in my charge some joy and some acknowledgement, so that they can see.
But
that,
I mean,
because
I
spend a lot
remember,
of time doing that for clients.
yeah, I remember in the very early days of Wolff Ollins, when I was, more actively running it, just to make people really feel genuinely valued, to make people feel we really, really appreciated them and would be a different company if they weren't there. That's a terrific thing, to be able to give people that sense of recognition of what it is uniquely them and why you want them there and how valuable they are. I suppose it's appreciation is the word I'm looking for, to give people that sense of being appreciated, particularly appreciated. That's a great thing to give people. And it's, yeah.
I think there's so much in there, because companies spend so much time selling, advertising, trying to sort of reach people and kind of cut through to get
Yes.
access to them. And I don't know how much time they then spend kind of making them feel welcome or acknowledged or appreciated when they actually do step through the door. They just sort of, as soon as you come through, they just move on to the next acquisition, the next, reaching out to the next person to try and grab them.
Well, when you feel, if you're running a company, which I don't do these days, but when I used to be in the earlier days of Wolff Ollins, when I used to be really running it, you would feel you had a natural generosity. You could feel it, and you wanted people to go home in the evening thinking, I really like being here. This is really recognizing what it is that I bring. And I think appreciation is a hugely wonderful thing, to appreciate people. Like I'm appreciating your questions and the fact that you're even bothering to talk to me, really, in a sense. I mean, why me? And what can I bring value or even of interest to you? So in this exchange, we've never met before. So here we are, spending a few minutes together. How can I maximize what I can give you? Because that's the whole point of a conversation.
Yes, I guess it's a shift out of thinking about I and me and thinking about how can I give you something, how can I tell your story better, how can I ask questions that reveal the things that I can see in the work that you do. That's how I sort of think about this when I come into these interviews.
Of course. And by the way, where are you?
I'm based in Johannesburg in South Africa, so I'm on the
So that's
bottom
amazing
end of
that
Africa.
we're talking each other across a whole segment of our planet. That's extraordinary too, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, this is amazing. I had a conversation with a friend the other day about planes, and I find it amazing that you can climb on this thing that weighs hundreds of tons and flies down a piece of tarmac and leaps into the air and flies you anywhere in the world. And then the first thing everyone does is they close their blinds and they turn on the television so they can watch the latest Avengers movie. And if you look out the window there, you're literally flying over Africa, or you're flying over Madagascar, or you're over the Atlantic Ocean. It's like, it's a mind-blowing thought when
It is.
you sort of
But I mean,
step back from it.
imagine that you could put your hand out like this, and I could, and we could actually touch each other. Will that ever happen?
Probably. There's millions of funded venture capital firms, I mean, companies chasing after this today, which is amazing. But you're right, this technology, it enables things that we could never do before. But I
Yes.
think circling back to where we started this conversation, it's still the principles of it all and the initial ideas of it all are still the same. The technology just gives us different access, or, I can speak to different people, but the basics of all of this stuff remain the same because, as you so eloquently said earlier, we're just complicated beings that are just living next to each other. That will never sort of change. Technology will never shift that.
This conversation is as good as it can get today. I mean, you're thousands of miles away, but I can see you. We can't shake hands, but we can see each other and we can hear each other and we can connect. So that's pretty bloody good, actually, compared to what it would have been 100 years ago.
Yes.
But how much more intimate do you think we will be capable of being one day?
One day. Well, Michael, I'm cognizant of time, so I'd like to ask you one more question. And
yes,
if you could speak to people who are starting out their careers as brand designers, what is one thing that you wish you had known when you started your career?
Yes, that's a really good question. I wish I'd known that I could be of value to people, really be of value to people. I wish I'd known the potential of even quite momentarily human relationships. I wish I'd known that you can reach people and that you can connect with people, really connect with people. I didn't know that. That would have been very useful to me. I was self-conscious, probably a bit frightened of people, influenced by hierarchy, shy, all those kinds of things. I didn't really believe that I could connect with people easily, and we all can. I used to be self-conscious, and I used to be apprehensive of people and concerned about the impression I was making, all those kinds of things. I didn't realize that you were just connecting with another human being. It took me a long time to realize that that's all that can happen. I used to be very self-conscious and I suppose scared of people. And until that goes away, it's quite an inhibition.
It's a simple but profound thought, and I think if you lean into the positivity of these things, it's the possibility for ideation, the possibility for creativity, the possibility for connection.
I mean, it took me quite a long time before I could walk into a meeting and meet someone who is the CEO of a big company and have an immediate human connection with them because I demanded it, and because there's no point in dealing with people unless you're really dealing with them. And that took me a long time before I could get past my natural reserve or shyness or whatever you want to call it, fear of people, I suppose. And once that's gone and you're just another human being, it's much easier. Yeah.
Well, Michael, I mean, thank you so much for sharing your experience. Thank you for persisting. This wasn't the easiest interview to get done, but I'm super glad that we made it there. And thank you to Heath for helping make it happen.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Good to meet you.
I really, really appreciate it. And we'll catch all of you in the next one.